This just into our SNY newsroom. Giants quarterback Eli Manning will announce his retirement on Friday, so we are joined by our SNY NFL insider Ralph Vacchiano via Skype. And Ralph, are you surprised by this announcement?
No, not at all. This is always the way it was leaning for Eli Manning. I thought there was a chance he'd probably hold out till after the Super Bowl to announce it, but everyone who knew him knew that he had no desire to continue as a backup in the NFL, no desire really to go play anywhere else. I think if there were jobs open around the league, it's something that he might have considered. But when you look at the landscape of the NFL, he probably didn't have a starting job waiting for him. And rather than go and fight for a job like he's some kid out of college, I think he knew he was going to just take his legacy, keep it intact, and go home into retirement.
You mentioned that legacy, iconic figure here in New York sports, two-time Super Bowl MVP. What do you think his legacy will be?
Well, I think he goes down in history as probably the greatest quarterback the Giants have ever had. He's certainly in that conversation in the top 2 or 3. Sometimes it's a generational question who you like, but he'll have all the records in their record book. He has those 2 Super Bowl titles. Both of them obviously were incredible. He was the MVP in both of them. There really has never been anybody that's done it better. And he's an iconic figure as well, just on the entire sports scene. He's a lot like Derek Jeter, a guy who has been exactly what his team wanted him to be for many, many years, and a perfect representation of the franchise.
Hall of Famer, do you feel like Eli Manning is of that caliber for the NFL? Is he a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame?
Oh, he's definitely not a shoo-in. I think that he is of that caliber. I think he'll be a finalist. I think he's a guy that deserves strong consideration. I think the issue Eli Manning has is his reputation in New York is much greater than it is across the country. And, I know most of the voters in that room. There's a panel of about 44, 45 of them. I've spoken to many of them, and I can tell you that there is some skepticism of Eli Manning as a Hall of Famer. Some thought that maybe, he's not as great or as much of an immortal as people in New York make him out to be. So I think he's going to struggle to get the necessary votes when his time comes up. I think he'll eventually get in, but I think it might take some time.
Ralph, you obviously know Eli very well. You've covered him for years. What does the future look like for him? Do you see him going into broadcasting, or does he have a future maybe on the coaching side, advising side? What do you see?
Well, he said he doesn't want to coach, and I can see why he wouldn't. It's a lot of long hours at low pay and not a lot of glory in that. I think that he's probably not a guy that wants the spotlight of being a broadcaster. I think there'd be a position for him there if he chose to pursue that, but I think that's probably more his brother's type of thing. I see a combination for him. I think a lot of people think he's going to go very quietly into retirement and disappear, and you'll never hear from him again. I think he's going to be a guy that'll pop up every now and then in some special circumstances. I looked at what his brother does. He has a show called Peyton's Place with ESPN where he just does some little vignettes with other famous quarterbacks. I could see Eli doing something similar to that, going into a broadcasting field a little bit here or there. But I think for the most part, he's going to disappear, become a family man. He's got, a place in New Jersey. He's got a place in Mississippi, maybe split time between those two, and, just come back for whatever the Giants' equivalent of Old Timers Day is to sort of relive old times with his former Super Bowl champs.